A new school board took the dais last night, cementing a conservative majority for the first time in recent years. Several groups staged a protest before the event to express concern about the direction of the school board, and we're joined by some of them. Katie Hathaway, representing public school defenders. Good morning,
Good
Katie.
morning, Anne.
Kelly Frazier, president of the Northside Coalition of Jacksonville. Good morning, Kelly.
Good morning.
And Judy Sheklin, retired school counselor and political action chair for Jacksonville NOW. Good morning, Judy.
Good morning.
So, this is a very contentious topic, we should say, just off the top. We're going to be hearing several voices from the other side during this discussion, but we also invite your calls and questions. You can reach us at 904-549-2937. You can also email First Coast Connect at wjct.org or reach out on social media. Kelly, why did you hold this event last night?
Well, it was important. It was important for us. I first got wind of a lot of the social media posts from Tony Ricardo, actually. That's what caught our attention.
The new school board, one of the new three school board members.
Exactly. And the information that was on his social media page just really brought a lot of outrage considering his new position. So we wanted to bring light to that and address it because it was a lot of bigoted things there. He talked about women. He talked about it was racist. It was some homophobic things in there. It was just a lot of different things that we wanted to address and make sure that, when he takes his new seat, him and anybody else in that new role, that they consider the children and not their political side.
Yeah. And so Tony Ricardo, as I said, he's one of three new board members that was sworn in last night. He has since made his social settings private instead of public. But during the campaign and during the run up to the election, there were a lot of articles done about the posts that he was making. Some of them, as you said, seemed to be openly homophobic. Some of them appeared to be demeaning of powerful Black women, including Michelle Obama, jokes about her gynecologist, the vice president, Kamala Harris, referring to her as a prostitute. And there were, Black women in the community in particular found that offensive.
Very offensive. I mean, how dare you? How dare you say that she was prostituting to get to her position? No, she got there because she deserved to be there. And she served in her position as vice president because she deserved to be there. So how dare he make those comments or at least post them on his social media? And like I said, even when it comes to the children, like whenever somebody sees something like that, it lets us know how you think.
So this is a shift in the board, Katie. Five of the seven now a conservative majority. They did have a conservative majority, I guess, prior, but this is a much stronger position. The community has spoken, and five of these candidates endorsed by the conservative group Moms for Liberty. What was your goal with the protest that you held last night?
Yes, like you said, five of them are backed by Moms for Liberty now. And our goal was to set forth our expectations for this new incoming board prior to the swearing in ceremony and to send a strong message to the community and to children that bigotry has no place in our schools. And we are not going to tolerate any sort of extremist policies being pushed by this new board. And our children, will not be used as political pawns to push forward an agenda.
So we should say Superintendent Chris Bernier, he's also new. He's also been supported by Moms for Liberty. There were several representatives of Moms for Liberty there celebrating the new board last night, including Holly Dean. She's the outgoing chapter chair of Moms for Liberty Duval. Let's hear what she had to say.
I got involved with Moms for Liberty because they were standing up for parental rights. Finally, a group was listening to we the parents. I worked with countless members from our chapter to advocate to the school board. With the election of Tony, Melody, and Reggie, adding to Charlotte and April, we finally have a school board that will pay attention and be focused on children and about parental rights and education, about school safety and fiscal responsibility. I have seen these three people work so hard. They are true warriors for children. We are finally in good hands. Finally, parents' voices will not fall on deaf ears. This five-member majority has an opportunity to effect true change. I will be cheering you on, and I'm so proud of you.
So that was Holly Dean, chapter chair for Moms for Liberty Duval. Judy, this board is in a position to make some significant changes with the majority that they have and also just sort of their unity of vision. Is there are there particular things that you're concerned about or that NOW is concerned about in terms of policy changes?
Yes, I think as now, but also, as parents, grandparents, community members, we care about all of our students, and particularly our most vulnerable students and those who are more likely to be bullied and experience challenges in schools. And we would hope that this majority would recognize that we need to continue to provide resources, which we lost last year. One of NOW's focuses is LGBTQ rights. And our concern is last year, before these decisions were made, we had Jasmine as support for our LGBTQ students. We had rainbows. We had training as counselors about how to work with students and help them to deal with bullying and challenges. We know they're most at risk for suicide, for depression, underperforming in school. And we're concerned that we will begin to see a real shift, as we already have, in supports that are provided for them.
And
So that's a real concern.
and this event last night really was in large part sort of focused on those tweets and social posts
Hmm.
of Tony Ricardo. We mentioned some of the comments he made about Black women in particular, but he's also described transgender identity as a mental disorder,
Hmm.
referred to transgender people as freaks and mental detectives, and described same-sex marriage as a perverted agenda. And so he has been very clear, I guess, about his
Hmm.
perspective, but he's on this program and said that he will represent all children of Duval County and do so with um, an even hand.
That makes it very hard to believe when he has thoughts like that, and he shows it. It's one thing. One thing that really has gotten to me about this is that people have addressed it as being freedom of speech. And for me, freedom of speech, everybody has a right to that. But there are consequences to freedom of speech, and that may be positive or negative. But one thing it does for me, for someone that does not know Tony Ricardo, is that it does not give me a pretty picture of him or the way that he thinks. Representation is a huge thing when it comes to our children. We need people to represent. And when you don't have the background or know what they need, it makes it very hard for you to be able to speak to what they need. So, with the thoughts that he's shown us that he has about all these different groups, it makes it hard to believe that he will address them fairly, as
Yeah.
you said.
So one of the speakers at last night's meeting was Clay County resident and Moms for Liberty Director of Engagement, Tia Bess. And she pushed back on the narrative that Moms for Liberty or the supporters of these board members were in any way expressing bias. Let's hear from her.
I'm a founding member of Moms for Liberty, and I stand firm with everyone on this board. So I'm here to set the record straight. Before you say we're racist, book banning Nazis, I'm Black, surprise. I'm gay, surprise. And nobody cares about that. Take care of our kids, and to everyone that's watching home, we gotta make it a purple solution. We have to come together.
Kelly, I just kind of ask you to follow up on that because Tia does have a very diverse background. She is, an open lesbian living with her partner. She has a son with special needs. She's a Black woman. She kind of represents a very sort of diverse subset of people, group of people in various ways. And yet she's aligned with this very conservative group.
She is one person, okay? And Tia, she has her background, she has what she believes in, but we also have what we believe in. So I don't want to speak against her because I don't know her. I don't know, why she chose to believe in what Moms for Liberty stands for. So I can't really speak to that. What I can say is that there are plenty of people that fear what Moms of Liberty believes in. So she has her right to think and say what she has to say, but she can't speak for everyone on that side.
We're talking about the new school board that was just sworn in last night, praised and both protest as well over the swearing in. We're taking your calls and questions. If you want to reach us, you can call 904-549-2937. You can also email firstcoastconnect@wjct.org. I want to take a call from Mike on the South Side. Good morning, Mike. Go ahead.
Hey, good morning. What was particularly disturbing last night was when a lot of these social media posts that were racist and sexist and homophobic were pointed out. The people in the room that supported those conservative Moms for Liberty candidates were laughing. They actually found those posts humorous, and that was just appalling, really. And even at the event that was held, there were some hecklers in the background, basically with signs saying, we won, get over it. And I'd like to hear what the folks on the panel have to say about those folks that say, well, they won, just kind of get over it and move on. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Katie.
Yeah, a handful of us did go inside that meeting after the rally or press conference to public comment. And what I witnessed felt more like a Trump MAGA rally rather than a swearing-in ceremony, traditional swearing-in ceremony for school board members. And it felt like hyper right-wing. Our Floridians just voted to keep our school board elections nonpartisan, but what I saw was hyper partisanship in that room, and so that was very concerning to me as a parent. I'm sorry, what did Mike ask for us to cover? The people that were heckling us. Yes, they could not let us peacefully say our piece. They came over with their pictures and were getting into our pictures saying, we won, get over it. And I just don't think that that is a unifying message to send to teachers or children in this district.
We've got a call from Don in North Jacksonville. Good morning, Don. Go ahead.
Hi, I've called a few times to the station. Thank you for taking my call. Aside being a caller and a listener, I'm also a reporter, a journalist. And I attended a Governor DeSantis press conference over a year ago where Moms of Liberty were present here in Jacksonville. And I asked specifically the question. I said, we understand there's a concern about trans matters with children, but are you against gay rights in general? And they refused to answer the question. Either Moms of Liberty, who were present, and Governor DeSantis. They said something like, "Oh, we don't understand your question. We don't know what you're trying to say." So for me, it seems a little disingenuous that they didn't answer the question when I asked clearly, "Do you believe in gay rights?" And aside the trans issues with children, and they didn't answer. So I just want to share that and see maybe what people think about that.
Yeah, Don. And we should say, the governor has been a part of this. Of these races, a number of the school board members that are currently seated or supported by the governor. Judy.
Yeah, he actually targeted those races and provided support. And there were also misleading pieces of information about candidates that ran against the Moms for Liberty. But I did want to address the issue regarding the treatment and perception of LGBTQ families and gay rights. We know that same-sex marriage is the law of the land. That's been decided by the Supreme Court. And yet our students are not comfortable, our teachers are not comfortable having students talk about their families when they include same-sex parents. And we talk about parental rights. Well, don't those parents have rights? Isn't their relationship and their family also something that should be celebrated? So, I just throw that out there. I hope that we will recognize that all of our students and all of our parents deserve the right to be represented and protected by our school board. It isn't we versus them. It's all of us.
Yeah. But there was, as we say, this was a pretty overwhelming election. It was alluded to a couple of times by the speakers, that this was a rightward shift nationally and that is just being reflected in the electorate here in Duval County. There were a number of Republicans there last night, city council members, Terrence Freeman, Ron Salem, Mike Gay. Mike Gay's wife spoke at length, welcoming the new board. They're all Republicans, and this is a red voting district, it appears.
Well, yes, I want to also point out that the majority of school board elections are decided in an August primary, and that's very low voter turnout. So I think 20% of people decided those seats. And so I would hope that the overwhelming majority of people here in Duval do support safe and inclusive spaces in schools for every child.
Yeah. Kelly, you looked like you were going to say something there.
No, I was just saying that it does make it very difficult to believe when he has, such beliefs and it's not hidden. We see he's shown us, he's made it private now, but we see how he feels about it. So it just makes it very hard to believe that he will be fair when you think so poorly of different backgrounds.
We have a call, Jennifer Jenkins. She is with Educated We Stand. Good morning, Jennifer. Go ahead.
Good morning. How are you?
Wonderful. Go ahead.
I would love to kind of compound on that. Contrary to what Moms for Liberty is saying, that this election cycle was a national and a statewide mandate, I just don't believe that. I don't believe that that is reflected in our school board races across the state. Moms for Liberty and DeSantis endorsed candidates lost all over the state, even in historically ruby red areas and founding counties of Moms for Liberty, such as Sarasota and Indian River. I started an organization called Educated We Stand, and we supported 18 candidates all across the state of Florida, and over 70% of them won. And so even though people are feeling concerned with good reason right now and dispirited, we need to remember that when hundreds of thousands of dollars are being poured into some of these communities, unfortunately, like Jacksonville, we need to understand that we need to continue to fight back because it isn't a mandate. We still have control. We need to unify and come together, just like these incredible women that you have there with you today.
Jennifer, I want you to hang on a second because I want to hear from Citizens Defending Freedom. They're also a political organization in Jacksonville. Kathleen Murray is the executive director. This is a group that endorsed the majority of candidates on the board. Let's hear what she had to say last night.
CDF would also like to thank our new school board members for the great sacrifice in time, energy, money, and resources in running for public office. You and your families were slandered by those who would oppose left-wing indoctrination, but nonetheless, you prevailed. Thank you for your courage. Thank you for your perseverance. As the director for CDF, I'd like to thank all the CDF volunteers who sent emails to board members, made phone calls, and spoke up at board meetings. Many of you are here tonight, and some of you even brought your family members to witness what can be done if you persevere. Finally, as a nonpartisan organization, we recognize that the battle is not one of political parties, but rather one of good versus evil. The change we see on the board tonight was achieved by the grace of God, and we give him all the glory.
Jennifer, I just want to ask you about this. I mean, she's saying basically this isn't about political differences. This is about good versus evil.
When I hear praising the grace of God as the reason why some of these candidates won their elections, the reality is it was the grace of the purse of Ron DeSantis. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars were poured into these races in Jacksonville and in other areas as well, and traditionally, historically red areas where they should just win without even blinking an eye. The Republican Party of Florida poured about $300,000 right here in my home county of Brevard County, which is just not a traditional method for them. And so to be so misleading to the public about the real intention here is not only frustrating, but as an educator and a mom of a daughter in our public school system, it's concerning and it's dispiriting. And I'm with our communities across the state who are concerned about what's going to happen when we have boards that are ready and willing to push the political divisive agenda of Ron DeSantis further and further to the right.
We have an email from Alex. He says the voters have spoken to not have partisan school boards for the primary reason our children are not political pawns. Moms for Liberty may have started with altruistic, nonpartisan goals, but they have since been co-opted for political gain. The new school board members have shown, particularly at the first meeting to select a new chairman, they have zero qualms about bringing politics in. Good, data-driven ideas should win, and not those that are screamed the loudest. I think the meeting that Alex is referring there is the workshop that was held prior to the school board meeting where they were trying to work out who was going to be the next leader of the school board. And I'm guessing you saw that, Katie.
Yes, I watched that governance meeting last week, and it's concerning to me. It was very contentious, and Reggie Blunt seemed very, not a little bit hostile in the discussion, and it really gave me grave concerns about how this board can move forward and make sound decisions collectively for every child.
I mean, to be fair, I think Reggie Blunt was reacting to being just sort of defined by the Moms for Liberty endorsement. He said it's just one of many people that supported me. He described them as just some ladies who liked him, and that there were a variety of other people that weren't being mentioned all the time that endorsed him as well.
Yeah, I understand that, but I also think he needs to own who is endorsing him. I mean, they were putting it out on social media. They were taking a victory lap when he won, and he was at all of the events with them leading up to this election. So he stands with them. It tells me he stands with what they believe in and stand with.
Judy, I want to ask you, I mean, one of the board's apparent policy priorities is maybe re-examining sex education. And so currently there's an opt-out policy if you don't want your child to
Mhm.
have a sex education curriculum, and they would like to change that to an opt-in. Is that something that you're watching? I mean, what would be the impact of that?
Yeah, we are absolutely watching that because we know that an opt out policy typically provides education to a broader swath of students. But if you're having to opt in, we have parents who are very busy, who are not necessarily able because of the demands on them to be as engaged to know, oh, I have to opt them in. All students need access to this information. As a counselor, I worked extensively, sadly, with students who had experienced sexual abuse. And very often, the education they received through our, at that time, comprehensive human sexuality education gave them the language and the tools to be able to describe their victimization. And so they were able to then, be believed. When we cut out that kind of information, not only do students have, healthy information, but they also will not have the information they need to stay safe. So opting in is a terrible idea.
I mean, the movement says that, this is about parental involvement and parental rights, and they want to make sure that the community is receiving the information about there's going to be this curriculum presented. And I think that the concern by some of the new school board members, or even some existing school board members that have conservative leanings, is that perhaps parents aren't getting the message when that curriculum is coming up. And that's why they want
Mhm.
them to have to opt in.
Okay, and that's a good point. My experience is that whenever we provided that information and curriculum in schools, we had it available to parents, and it would be, in many cases in the media center, parents were invited to review it, to see it, and they could always choose to opt their children out. But it was available on the website, and so they have an opportunity to be acquainted and review. And if they choose not to do that, that's okay. And they can always opt their kids out. That's always an option. But certainly we should not prevent the majority of students from having access to this very important information.
Kelly Frazier, is the Northside Coalition also watching that issue? And I think of that as an issue perhaps a little bit far afield for a civil rights focused organization.
Uh, it's not something on our forefront, but it is, we're concerned about what makes our community better. And when I think about inclusion, I'm thinking about representation for the children. I'm thinking about what is most important for them. Who actually benefits most from this? And I think about what Judy just said in terms of when something happens to these kids, it takes a village. You have your parents, you have family, you have friends, you have neighbors, and you have the school. And the schools provides information sometimes that the parents that they don't get at home. It also provides a comfort space for them. So it needs to be a place where the kids feel comfortable. So this is not something on our forefront, but it is something that we're concerned about. We're concerned about making our community better and anything that does that.
We've got a call from Susan in Mandarin. Good morning, Susan. Go ahead.
Yes, I wanted to echo what they're saying about the opt-in. I listened to that board workshop, and Charlotte Joyce was pushing opt-in quite a bit, even though she was given data that very few parents actually opt their kids out. And in response to that, she changed her wording from parents to the community as if the community has a right greater than what the parents want. And I found that very alarming. And also in that same meeting, April Carney seemed to want to shame people that opted in, because she said that the students who opted out sometimes were shamed. I don't know if that's true or not, but her implication seemed to be that she wanted to shame parents who opted in. And so I found that whole conversation very alarming, and I hope people will listen to that and see about their takeaway. Thanks.
Thanks, Susan. Your thoughts, Katie?
I watched that as well, and I did hear Charlotte Joyce talk about the opt-in versus opt-out, and I do think that that is extremely dangerous. And at the end of it, she did say, I think children need this this curriculum. So I'm just confused why they wasted, I think, 45 minutes discussing that policy if she believes that kids need this. And she talked about the community coming out, and the opt out doesn't reflect that. But I will say the people that showed up to those board meetings, those were not parents. And so I do think that what's reflective of those numbers who were opting out is accurate at this point.
So what's your takeaway? I mean, after last night's meeting, you began this protest, you entered a meeting, and it seemed very much like the momentum is on the other side, and that the voices, the majority voice was in favor of this new school board and the direction that they're taking.
Yeah, it was. And I will remind people that the pendulum does swing, and we do have 3 seats on the ballot in 2026, and we will go vote. And we will continue to advocate. Being an advocate does not mean talking into an echo chamber. It means showing up in the face of adversity and speaking, and that's what we will continue to do.
Yeah. Well, Katie Hathaway, Kelly Frazier, Judy Sheklin, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Anne.